Next guest crushes on the gram. Also hosts cooking classes, cooks for sports stars, is freshly re-signed to Team Big Green Egg for the next 2 years. Let's go ahead and race to the hotline and welcome back friend of the show, Jack Arnold. Jack, how are you, man?
Hey, Greg, what's going on, buddy?
And
Happy Tuesday to you, my
Happy
friend.
Tuesday to you. Appreciate the time as always, and we are rocking and rolling here in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I've dovetailed that nicely into the first question since we are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city this evening here. What is the deal, my man? You are like the biggest fish lover I think I have ever seen. So what's the fascination with fish?
Okay, well, I knew this question was coming at some point. So basically what the deal with fish is, well, actually, let's just say in general about music. Music is about what speaks to you as an individual. And I can remember a lot of times in the past where I've just been, you get down in the dumps or anything happens, whatnot. And it was fish that I turned to that really just picked me up and lifted me out of that and made me feel a lot better. So the deal with them is that they're known for their live performances. They've been touring for over 30 years. I've seen them 36 times right now.
Really?
Each one of those I have seen. Yeah, it's a lot. But the thing is, each one of the concerts is a different concert experience. They switch up the set list. The song is different. It's a little bit more lengthy, or a little bit shorter. They go harder, they go softer. Some shows they'll do like a 5-song encore, and it's basically about being there for the experience. You don't know what they're going to do, what they're going to play, but you know that you have an attachment to these 4 guys on stage who are doing something that no one else is doing with improvisational music. The fact is that it's just 4 guys who can really make a whole lot of sound on one stage together, and it's really quite something, and they've been together since college. So anyone can respect that. You don't have to be the biggest fan of the music, but luckily there are a whole lot of people who do get it and who do enjoy when we play the music and really seem to dig the vibe that we put with the barbecue.
All right, so let me ask you this because, from a very high level, I had heard of fish, but I don't know if I just never knew anybody that was really into it. So who was your exposure in? Is it something you found on your own, or did like a older buddy or a friend of yours said, hey, I'm a fish fan, and invite you in?
I actually had a few friends, back when I lived in Virginia, and then a few more here who were just fish fans. I never really gave it a chance. And once they did their reunion show in Hampton in March of 2009, after they broke up in 2004, that's when I started to give them a chance and realize that, there's really something to this. There has to be a reason for the following. There has to be a reason that people will travel anywhere to see this band. There has to be a reason why they sell out Madison Square Garden 4 nights in a row at New Year's in 5 minutes. So I just kind of fell into it, and I went to a show, and just like that, I was hooked. And I keep going, and I keep enjoying the experience, and I love seeing what they do. And like I said, it's all about how it makes you feel on the inside, and they've certainly made me feel a whole lot better when I haven't felt as good,
When you watch your posts on Instagram, I mean, typically you are jamming some kind of a fish. You got a hashtag fish, or you're at fishing on Instagram. Do you think that played some kind of a role in helping you gain that following that you had? Like fellow fish people were like, hey, man, not only is this guy cooking awesome food, but we dig the jams. We have a similar mindset.
I want to say yes. I feel that there had to be a correlation between the two, because a lot of my favorite comments that I'll get is when guys will say, or anyone, guys or girls, they'll say, wow, that I was literally at that show, the song you're jamming, because I will, it's a lot of the time I'll list that it's by Fish, and then I'll list the date of the show, and then I'll list the city that it was in or the venue, and then the song they were playing, and people will say, God, I was listening to that the other day. That was a really peak jam for those guys. It's funny how many people will actually get it when I play certain ones. They'll say, man, that's some of the good fish right there,
Jack Arnold joining me here on the show, at Jack Arnold on Instagram, over almost 61,000 followers, maybe 61,000 at this point, but at last check it was just shy. Let's get into a touchy subject here, Jack. I know you're so anxious to talk about it, but if you are a follower or if you follow Jack's profile on Instagram, recently, I call it Hackgate 2019, but somehow or other, your online profile for Instagram was hijacked, and it was kind of a tense. How long did it end up actually being taken away from you?
This was, I noticed it on February 22nd, and it lasted until the 27th when I was able to get it back. Basically, on the 22nd, that morning, around 9:15, I got an email from Instagram saying, hey, do you confirm changing your email address to this? And it was clearly a spam email, and I noticed it immediately. I was like, of course I didn't do this. So they have an option in the email saying to revert this change if you did not request this.
Mm-hmm.
So when I clicked that link, the link was broken, which instantly made me realize I might have a serious problem. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how someone was able to get in there, but it was extremely scary. That's what they were doing. They got in my account and they basically kept it. So I had to start a new one. It was something that really, it was heartbreaking to say the least. We put a whole lot of work into our Instagram, to say the least, but you almost feel like your security's been violated, which it has been. And, I just really can't say enough about activating your two-factor authentication, strengthening your password. I mean, I did not have my two-factor authentication on, and that was my fault. It is absolutely on now. My password is double the length and double the strength. So I don't wish upon anybody to go through what I had to go through for 5 days. It was really a challenging thing, but by the grace of God, we were able to get it back. I really want to thank WCNC and in particular Kendall Morris for calling me and saying that she was doing a story on hacking and social media. They had known me because I'd been on for a couple cooking segments, and she got the story out that night. And I actually videotaped it from my phone on NBC when it was on that evening and put it on my Instagram story, and that was kind of what led to it. So I really want to thank them, and I can't thank the entire barbecue community enough for being there and writing all the comments and sending me all the messages, because it's really like they were completely, they all felt the pain that I was going through. And they were really there for me when I need them. So I just want to tell the whole community I love them very much.
I think it's kind of weird to put ourselves in your shoes, because unless you have that, I mean, certainly there's a number of Instagram people that have, way more, I mean, I think everybody has way more followers than me, but there's other people that have way more followers than you, millions, hundreds of thousands, all this stuff. But if we're taking it as it is, I mean, this is a huge deal for you. You spend a lot of time cultivating, doing it authentically, not taking, the crap or the bag ways out and buying or doing the unlike BS kind of stuff. This is all grassroots organic growth that you were able to get to that, 61,000 type followers. And then to have somebody backdoor into your account and take it over. I can't imagine. I can't imagine what you were thinking, right off the bat. Oh my God, I've worked so hard to get this thing going to where, if I wanted to, I could turn it into some type of a lucrative side business or to help out. Or I have these partnerships with all these brands, and now somebody could totally ruin it. And then it's up to me to say, hey, this isn't really me, but then it's my account posting potentially really weird shit. And it's not me, so now I have to convince people it's. I mean, that could have went really bad really quickly.
It really could have. I mean, the fact that Instagram didn't really give me the support or the assistance that I really needed, because as soon as that, the link was disabled, as I tried to revert it, I immediately emailed them and replied to that email saying I have been hacked in all capital letters, and basically pleaded my case. I had screenshots of, everything that was proving it was myself, and just couldn't get in. And to this day, I still haven't heard back from them. I try to not be judgmental, but that's something Instagram very much needs to fix, because to be totally honest, it was hard to eat and hard to sleep. My wife was worried about me for a minute, but we were very, very fortunate to get it back one way or another. We did. The community was a big reason. I had a lot of people, trying to cheer me up when I was down, and we'll just hope that never has to happen to anybody, because no one deserves that. And it's just one of those things, to say the least.
Yeah, so you're back at it. At Jack Arnold is his handle on Instagram. Yeah. Obviously, we're big proponents, and I did it as well. two-factor authentication, and then go ahead and make sure that that password is absolutely secure and it's not your name plus 00 or password 77 or something stupid like that. Really take the time and invest in a strong password, do the two-factor authentication, and appreciate you kind of sharing that story. I know it's not easy to talk about and something you probably want to move past as quickly as possible, but having that status, people want to have that story so they can make sure they're not putting themselves in the same situation. So I'm sure people are really appreciating the candor that you're sharing here this evening. But let's talk about something you're really good at, which is cooking, Jack. I mean, let's go. Let's get with it. So, my man, you are eating burgers 800 times a week, and they look better and better every time you do it. So at first I was like, he's showing the same burger thing over, but then I'm paying attention, and I realized, no. He is really down with burgers. So we kind of touched on it from a high level last time you were on end of the year, but I wanted to recover here because your burgers are something of an extraordinary process, simple probably in technique and doing it, but in the end product looks absolutely amazing. So if you could just kind of bust us back through a start to finish on one of Jack's burgers.
Well, first off, Greg, that was very kind of you. That's big. Thank you very much for saying that. It means a lot. I basically don't have too tough of a process to it. I just really like using cast iron skillet over the grill so that it kind of does the crust on the outside to sear the juices in. So the process that I like to do is I'll sear them. I'll put them, about 400 degrees on cast iron outside, one flip only on each side, and then put it on indirect heat at about 350 degrees once you got the crust. Therefore, you're kind of smoking or baking the inside of the meat while you've got the outside crusted, so it's literally trapped everything on the inside. And the key is that you cannot probe it. You can't, take your meat thermometer and put that in your burger because you'll immediately see all the juice run out that you've worked so hard to save.
So So it's just what kind of thickness you're dealing with, what temperatures you're running. So it's just a process or a program that you're experienced running. So this long to get the crust in, and then this long to cook in order to finish. And it looks like you're kind of running that medium rare to medium rare plus type of finish on the internal.
Correct. Yeah, I try to run to about medium on the burgers usually when I can. But steaks, we touched base on that last time. I absolutely still use my meat thermometer for steaks, but yeah, you can't pierce the burgers by any meat, or all your juice will run out that you work for. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is just cutting open to a juicy burger and then ripping into it, as you're well aware of.
Yeah, no doubt. So are you like let it rest guy with the burgers too, or are you pretty quick to eat after you get them off?
I let them rest for 5 minutes, sometimes 6 or 7 if I need to. But I always let it rest for 5 minutes before you cut into it. You don't want all the steam and everything to run out of it. But yeah, give it a few minutes.
I typically see you using the Snake River Farms ground beef, but if you don't have access or you're looking for something a little different, is it something that can be used with like an 80/20, or I guess what would be your best recommendation outside of the Snake River Farms?
Absolutely. I use 80/20 all the time, actually. It's the best way to do it. It's got a perfect amount of fat. It's going to cook down really nicely. It's going to be really juicy. It's not going to dry out. So yeah, that's exactly what I like to use, is 80/20. If I'm not going to be using the American Wagyu ground beef, which I'm very, very fortunate to be able to use a lot of the time, 80/20 that's a wonderful blend.
Jack Arnold joining me here on the show, talking about some live fire cooking right now. You had started the first time, well, it was this past week, I think you said it was the first time out, Teres Major. I've been hearing a little bit about it. There's this other cut, that sirloin cap, that I've been seeing here over the last 5 or 6 months that everybody's on right now. But Teres Major was a little bit new to me, so talk to me a little bit about this particular cut and then how you attacked it first time out.
Well, this is the first time that I had ever used it, and quite frankly, I was amazed at the marbling. I mean, these things look like highly marbled baby filet mignon tenderloins. I mean, just the sight of them was absolutely amazing. So I didn't really know exactly what to do the first time. I asked Josh Tehan, some good advice on it, and they turned out, I think the internal temperature when I pulled it off was about 127, if I'm not mistaken. So I literally just went direct 400 degrees. And I think overall it went for about 14, maybe 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. About 14 minutes. Yeah. And it turned out great. So you just went direct. You didn't have to reverse sear it or anything. So I'll absolutely be looking for more of those. I mean, that just had a great, great flavor to it.
Let's talk a little bit about reverse sear. Also, I don't know if that dovetails or it's a blasphemous statement, sous vide. But let's take reverse sear first. Where do you stand on the process, and is that something that you would typically do and you just didn't do it this time, or is there a specific cut or thickness that you think works best with reverse sear?
I try to reverse sear as many times as I possibly can. I mean, if it's a 3-finger thick fillet, I absolutely will. I would say if it's a New York strip or a ribeye, about 1.5 inches thick, I'm absolutely going to reverse sear those all the time.
And what's your process? Do you take it up to a 125, 128 type deal? Are you a little lower than that?
Usually about 120 to 125, I would say. When I reverse sear it, I go to about 250 degrees, and then I just bring it over to direct fire. So, yeah, when it's about 120 to 125, it's always going to heat up a few more degrees. So after that, I think you just want to pull it and rest. And, if you use really, really high-quality meat, the last thing you want to do is overcook it. So even go a degree or two earlier if you need to.
Are you minute and a half on super high heat? I would imagine you're getting one of those big green eggs fired up with some kind of a lump charcoal situation and then just going for afterburner effect.
You're exactly right. 90 seconds, exactly. Each side, just get that torch going, get that crust, that fire flavor. And once again, you've sealed everything in, and it's just the best way to do steaks.
Jack Arnold talking to me about steaks right now. You had mentioned that you don't probe burgers, but you're probing steaks to kind of nail that doneness. Are you looking for a finish of into the 130s?
I am okay with 130. I always try to keep it around, 127, 128 if I can. But, you're talking a few degrees. I mean, it doesn't bother me too much. But, yeah, I always try to actually keep it just a little bit under 130 personally.
When are we going to see Jack Arnold at a SCA event taking on some of these other steak cooks? Is that something that interests you?
Whenever I'm invited, whenever anyone wants to do that, I'm always down. I'm loving doing what we are now. We've been doing a lot of classes, been doing a lot of private dinners up here, and I'm just enjoying getting the time with everybody that I am. So anytime anyone wants me to do something, I'll always do it if I have the time.
My man, I don't know if you're down or not, but June 15th, Hartville, Ohio, steak cook-off, first ever in Ohio. I mean, I'll send the private jet down for you, maybe hook up at Concord, fly you back out here, and then, we're all good to go. What do you say?
June 15th. I'll write that down. That's 6 days before the Fish Charlotte concert. So, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, no doubt. Jack Arnold joining me here on the show. Now, the other thing that I notice as we're following on Instagram, certainly the meat's there, the burger's there. Got the cookers, as I just mentioned. You just recently re-signed with Team Big Green Egg for another 2 years, so congratulations on that. But you're also
Thank you so much.
A beer guy to a certain degree. So talk to me a little bit about beer pairings, I guess, with steak, and then if you start to get into maybe poultry or fish or something like that, how do you see the whole craft beer situation as it plays well with your meats and proteins?
Well, I'm actually pretty simple when it comes to that. I mean, I usually go with IPAs when I go with my steaks and burgers. I just think they got great flavor, great body to them more than anything. If I'm going to do a fish I've been eating less and less chicken. I don't know if you've noticed that on Instagram or not, but if I'm doing, fish or shrimp or scallops or something like that, I tend to go a little bit lighter with a nice pale ale, still with a good body, a lot of zest and aroma to it. If I do a stout, like a bourbon barrel-aged stout, that's usually going to be an end-of-the-night beer, like a dessert beer to say the least, or a sour or something like that. But with the dinners, I usually stick with, a solid hazy IPA more than anything. I just think it's a great flavor and, great mouthfeel to go with the food pairing.
Typically an IPA, at least from my experience, will have some of that grapefruity or fruity flavors on the palate. Do you think that works well in a contrast to some of the steaks? Or do you think it would work a little bit better with something a little lighter as well?
If you mean like grapefruit as in like kind of a bitter kind of zest to it, then I just try to steer away from those altogether. If it has a little bit of earthiness to it and, a little bit more of a, more of a fruity flavor as opposed to grapefruit, more of like an orangey kind of flavor, that's what I try to steer to more than anything.
Jack Arnold joining me here on the show. Jack, can I hold you over for one more segment? We can talk about the classes that are coming up this weekend?
Absolutely. That sounds good. We're rocking and rolling.
All right. Stand by. We're talking with Jack Arnold. Talk about some classes that he has coming up. Maybe clean juice. See that on Instagram too. Got to talk about clean juice.